on top of the world now.
Alive again. Alive again. And still frickin' raining. Come on. Damn. I was going to go hit the mountains and the bushes today, but shitty out. It absolutely poured yesterday. So the river's going to be screwed up again. I'm limited. I only got a few more days I can go do that one activity that I love is catch a steelhead, walk in the river. But anyway, quick mention, it's funny, isn't it funny, odd how, I mean, I've had hard physical jobs all my life. Very physical. And at the end of the day, you know you're tired and you know why. And I never had to sit at a desk job in my life. And I always remember thinking, how the hell is that tiring? But, like yesterday, I had to do a lot of grinding work yesterday with my brain. I was absolutely exhausted by the end of the evening yesterday. It's funny, isn't it bizarre how just using your mind, I mean, you're using your hands, but you're basically sitting and using your mind, and it can tax the shit out of you. Crazy. It's a crazy thing, not a crazy thing, just an odd thing for me to become aware of on my own after being physically exhausted all my life and realizing, yep, you can become exhausted just from your brain. There's definitely smoke coming off my brain by the end of the day yesterday, but I got all those tasks done. Now, let's get into her. Some fairly new ones here. Adjust the camera, the laptop, and I have some more photos to share. Your mention of sledgehammer noise near you that you didn't hear. Hi Steve, Mike Sweeney here. I never care if you use my name. As I grew up, I had dozens of paranormal experiences. Early 2000s, my wife and I started our own investigation group. For about 11 years. No longer doing that. Point being, on many occasions, we would be in a group of 8 or broken into smaller groups. We'd sit in a room of a house with digital audio recorders. Each of us had one. We were always within arm's reach of each other. And upon review of the recorders, there would be very clear voices heard, but not on every recorder, just some of them. We're right next to each other. How do some pick up the voice and not all? No clue. But it happened regularly. That's pretty bizarre. I wonder if the recorders were all the same brands. Excuse me. Also, as I mentioned to you in my first email, I've heard and felt the screams. Deer hunting in a stand on the back of my property, using a buck grunt call. Suddenly a snort wheeze begins, but morphs into the most blood-curdling woman's horrific scream I've ever heard. I could see the clearing where it came from, but there's nothing there. Then it happened again, more intensely. Nothing there. My career was law enforcement, SWAT. I've ran into gunfire. I don't scare. But I was panicking. This was so loud and intense I felt it. It moved me back like it was literally right in my face. It haunts me still. And that was 12 years ago. I could see exactly where it came from, about 120 feet in front of me, but nothing there. I strained my eyes looking over my scope and then through the scope. Nothing. It did physically move me. I felt the vibrations on me, in my stand and tree. It still haunts me. I felt like it tried to move me out of there. Funny story, last week I was with 2 friends, very good successful hunters. One of them has a property that adjoins mine. The other guy hunts with him. The neighbor knows what's going on up there. The friend does not. But he scored an enormous whitetail buck last season about 4 miles south across the river in a very remote area. He was telling the war story and mentioned he saw something odd and funny. About 300 yards away was this gigantic black bear running on his hind legs on the edge of the cut, then ran into the woods. The guy's been hunting very successfully all of his life. I said, hold on. Say that again? He repeated it. I looked at my neighbor and we stared at each other for what seemed like 5 minutes. The friend says, what's wrong? I asked him what's wrong with that picture. He says, bears don't run long distances on their hind legs. And I was shocked. He was doing that in such rough terrain over down timber and stumpage. I said, you didn't. He says, you call me a liar? I said, no, but you didn't see a bear. His facial expression was like he saw a ghost. He says, no effing way. We both said, oh, hell yeah, you did. My neighbor hasn't seen it, but he's seen tracks. I haven't seen tracks, but I've seen it twice up close and personal, as indicated in my very first email to you. Anyhow, it's pretty funny. I'm 72 now. Health isn't great, so my hunting is limited now. But all my life I hunted dark till dark, walking 2 to 4 miles in and out in the dark. I'm almost grateful I can't do that anymore now. It's a good excuse for my pride. Although those screams were on my property at roughly 10 a.m., 150 yards behind my cabin. They're out there, brother. Absolutely no doubt. I'll swear in a Bible while taking a polygraph, Mike. Yeah, me too, man. Appreciate you. Glad you're still going out. Don't quit. I think your buddy probably knew it wasn't a bear, right? He just had to tell the story and left out the human-like being part. Oh, forgot on me. Some hay on me. Horse food this morning. Another quick funny mention. So that the other day I shared with you guys that the video I attempted to make a video using a 360 camera on a tripod and GoPro on me and recorded Sarah catching that steelhead, and I called her Dewey. That's my nickname for her. I got nickname. Everybody's got nicknames. I don't call anybody in my circle by their name. I don't think anybody. But why I called her Dewey is because her business she sold in Squamish before it came here was Dew Hair Studio. So from that I called her Dewey. Just kind of stuck. So there you go. Now let's get into these photos. Somebody, a lot of people, sent me photos or mentions or timestamps of something behind me the other day when I could feel the frickin' hair on my body standing up. And, well, we got a sequence of photos from someone who's pointing something out to us, and I'll share it with you right now. All right? We'll look at it together. It looks a little odd. Does it freak me out? No. I know what's going on in the forest. Well, to an extent I know, but I know that we're not alone. I'm not stupid because I listen to all of you and I've seen very odd things in the woods. This is kind of Scott Carpenter-ish, these photos, but take from what you will. We'll see what you think about these. Let's check them out together. Ready? All right, let's run them through. This is how they came in the inbox. And there's no wind that day at all. Interesting. Now let's zoom in on them and run it through again. And there you go. Take from it what you will or leave it. Definitely looks a little odd, doesn't it? A little creepy. Do I believe that's the culprit? I don't know. Haven't a clue. Could have been that and more. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is what I felt. And what I felt there before. Last time I sat there. And I also know what goes on along that strip. It's just, is it the timber strip itself? Is it the river, water, lake, swamp system that travels through the middle of it? I don't know. But I know at one end, at the just up over the rise, at the head of that water system and over the rise is where those lights were in the sky that our First Nations girlfriend that lives out there recorded above her car. So, and she's seen it twice. And she's also seen these hairy people on that same water system, but farther the other way. And so has 1, 2, 3 other people, I believe, have seen these beings on that same water system, right? So that's within, and as well where I've seen that, what looked like a huge black, charcoaly black stump. First light on my way steelhead fishing, driving last year. And now it's gone. Whatever. I'm just saying there's shit going on around there. No way out of it. So, was that the culprit? Potentially spotted behind me? Maybe. Don't know. But there you go. Shared. Appreciate that. Ah, shit. I forgot the creepy music. Damn it. Are you supposed to put creepy, scary, spooky music with those pictures? Maybe next time. Now, as I was doing those pictures, I came across a screenshot here. This is on the How to Hunt Facebook page is where this is screenshot from, where I rarely go on Facebook. I mean, rarely. Now, let's read this. Steve, I don't know if I'm posting this in the right place, but here goes nothing. My name is Rocky Jones, and I was born and raised in Idaho. I am 40 miles from Clarkson, Washington, eastward along Highway 12. Highway 12 runs from Washington to Montana. Highway 12 goes over Lolo Pass into Montana. I live in a town called Orofino, population 3,500. In Orofino, we have the 3 largest dams in the United States, and we also have the world's largest steelhead hatchery. Oh, no shit. Mail me a few thousand. They don't, side note, the hatchery here doesn't reproduce steelhead because, quote, well, there's no money in it, end quote. Like, really? So you annihilated a species because there's no money in it? Out of an ecosystem? All right, I'll bite my lip. You know where that's going to go. The elevation of Orofino, Idaho, is 1,100 feet above sea level, rising in elevation going eastward. With that said, I want to tell you about my best friend who passed away recently due to cancer. Sorry to hear that, man. My friend's name is Martin. Martin was in the military for a long time and was a sharpshooter. As a matter of fact, he was ranked 3rd in the United States and 5th on the planet. He was very active with hiking in the wilderness with his sons, which were both ex-military. Martin and I were traveling west on Highway 12, going to Lewiston, Idaho. As he was driving, I was looking across the Clearwater River and up the mountain, and I spotted a bipedal creature walking across a very steep hillside. I pointed it out to Martin, and he pulled over next the road, and we both exited the car and walked back up the highway about 50 yards. And as the two of us were watching the creature up the mountain, it kept walking and then stopped and squatted down on its haunches facing downhill. And just as soon as it squatted down, it was like it finally noticed the two of us and immediately turned facing uphill and took off fast up the mountain and disappeared into the brush. I am a member. Welcome to the club. Yes, you are. And there you go. I wonder how many other people seen those beings around there. What's this one here? Hold on a minute. Rocky Jones. Okay, I got another screenshot here, I think, from the How to Hunt page. We'll see. All right. I wonder how many more people are going to chime in from that zone. Same thing from highway. Obviously, that one has a curiosity just hanging out watching traffic, probably. Which I think can be popular activity. Especially in the sea to sky zone at British Columbia. Here's another one. Hello, Steve. My name is Retired Army SFC Jerry Ford. You can use my name because I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about what I say. My people. In 1981 at Fort Wainwright, Alaska, I was an 18-year-old private. We were there for extreme cold weather training. We went up to one of the high mountains behind the base. It took 3 hours to get to the top. I read this one. Yeah, it's short. I'm going to keep reading in case a bunch of you may have missed it. And then I'll delete it from my photo albums. It's a screenshot in the photo album. We went up to one of the high mountains behind the base. It took 3 hours to get to the top. This was January. After we put up our tent, we got to walk around the camp. Walk around the camp area, and we started hearing what I learned later was whoops and screams. And about 150 meters, we saw a huge black thing walking on the side of this mountain. It had no backpack or clothes on, LOL, unless it was a hairy jumpsuit. Me being a young private, I thought it was a bear walking. And 4 days later, we went back to Wainwright and got 2 days leave. Excuse me. Well, Will, being a ladies' man, LOL, I had met a native Alaskan. Her mother managed the bar we were in. So I started talking to her about what I saw, and her mother overheard me and said, bears are not out now. And what I saw was a hairy man, and I asked, what's that? And my girlfriend said, that's our name for Sasquatch. I said, okay. What's that? And she gave me a book about I don't remember who wrote it. That was how I learned about them. Now fast forward to 2021, behind my house in Kentucky around late March and the first 2 weeks of April, late at night around 100 hours to 2:30 hours. There are whoops and loud screams, almost just like what I heard in Alaska. This has gone on every year since. It'll happen. And will happen again soon. And last year in July, I was riding my horse in the woods behind my house. You can ride for hours back there. And while riding, my horse started acting skittish and trying to turn around on me. I got him and tied him to a tree and started walking ahead of us. And about 25 feet from where I had the horse, I had found a lot of bone. At least 4 deer and a coyote, about 5 rabbits, and a couple of turkeys. And as soon as I started feeling like I needed to leave the area now, so I did. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thanks for letting me share this with you. Man, and P.S. This government crap needs to stop with the guns and between our two countries, mainly with mine, later. Yeah. Well, I got a funny feeling my country's in a worse spot than yours. For sure. At least your country, you got people fighting. Right? Not in mine. Not much. But here's another screenshot. I better read it. So I have to tell you all this. I was at an auction event yesterday and met this man from Tennessee. He was talking with the man I was with, and he mentioned he hunts and lives in the area that is fairly remote, up against a big state forest. Well, me being me, I said. Now I'm serious. Have you ever seen a Sasquatch? Yes, I'm serious. Well, his eyes changed. A flicker, I guess you call it. And he got serious and looked me straight in the eyes and said he had seen something, but didn't know what it was. But it walked on 2 legs, was black and 7 feet tall. So I started describing a sabe. Broad shoulders, no neck, hands to its knees. He said no. What I saw looked like a werewolf. I was like, whoa, you saw a dogman. He goes on to say that he is 61 years old and he grew up in that holler and has hunted all his life and has always been there. And it has always been there, and it follows him around and out of the woods. He says they turn up around September and sound like a cross between a peacock and a whippoorwill. I suggested this channel, but he's not on the internet. Good old Southern man, no bullshit. I'll never forget the way his face changed when I asked him the question. He was with an 85-year-old mule skinner, and I am 70. So we are no bullshit people. He said he leaves it alone, and it leaves him alone. And I told him to invoke... Hold on. What the hell's... And then that's the end of that screenshot. Uh-oh. Is there more? I told him to invoke the Lord's name if he needed to. End o story. Mention. And there you go. I don't want to see one of those dogmen things. I don't think I do. Not into it myself. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just messing with my inbox here. But there you go. That's how it happens. You look somebody dead in the eye. No bullshit. And if they know what you're talking about, they're going to know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Lots of people still don't want to talk about it, you know? I had a guy on... Remember I did a podcast on a guy's channel, hunting, full avid hunter, and he spent his, I think, majority of his adult life working timber cruising in British Columbia, remote for years. And I took him out bear hunting. Got him a big old bear. Just, what was that, last spring, I think? And he never brought this topic up once. No, I didn't either. But I already knew. I know that he knows what we talk about on this one channel. And you know how I just don't push the topic. I don't push the topic. I knew we'd be spending a few days with each other, and I'm like, well, if he's got an interest, he'll talk to me about it on his own. And if he doesn't, he won't. And he didn't. And I was looking at some of the comments on his channel after he posted up the video, and a handful of people were mentioning these beings on his channel. I guess I saw that he was reading the comments and liking them and shit, but... So, one of two things. right? Obviously, one of two things. Either he knows and doesn't want to talk about it at all cost, doesn't want to relive it, doesn't want to remember it, doesn't want to have to face it. Or one of those many who spent their whole life in remote British Columbia and never saw nothing. One of those two. I wonder which one it is, right? I was texting him the other day. I don't think he's going to bring it up. Which is fine. I don't give a flying shit. At this stage of the game, I don't care. You know what I mean? How's it going to assist me in any way if, what am I trying to say? I don't need people to react or speak of this topic in the same way I do. I don't need that. I guess I do and I don't. I don't know. I'm babbling. I'll just shut up right now. I can't. Obviously, I get screwed up when I look at things on the screen and I'm talking. I can't do it. I just so you know, all the years in guide camp, I'd be sitting there reading a book, and it's the big funny thing for my guide partner and other people sit around the table and they start chucking shit at me, and I'd be oblivious because I'm just reading the book. Huh? Are you guys picking on me again? Right? I get screwed up when I read, and I don't know why. A little challenged that way, I guess. What do we got here? This is an older one, I believe. I did a little searching in the one of my mail inboxes this morning. My true account, and I still don't know what it was. Title of this email. Hey, Steve. Hope you're well, brother. My name is James Tanner. I'm 62 years old now, and I was 37 when this happened. I want to thank you for giving me a no bullshit place to share this. I shared part of it one time before, and even that little bit helped me. All right. This was bow season, and even though we weren't supposed to, most of us carry a handgun during bow season around here. I had a climbing stand about halfway up a mountain on a ridge full of white oak acorns and other browse deer love around here. I could never get the wind coming down the mountain into my face where I could have been downwind from where I figured the deer moved to feed at night. This evening I got there for evening hunt, and the wind was perfect to hunt that stand. I hunt my way to and from my stands, easing in and out, and I got up to my stand and pulled my bow up to me, using paracord like always to raise and lower my bow. That afternoon all the deer I saw were moving pretty fast and away from me, so I thought I'd messed up somehow. I stayed until poor bow shooting light, and as I eased my way down the tree, the whole mountain got quiet. Not even the tree peepers sang out. I lowered my bow and stand on down and stepped out of the stand, bent over to unsnap my bow, and started to stand up. And when I did, something screamed / roared, growled at me that was ungodly. It went on for a lot longer than anything. Should have not to mention it hit me square up in the chest like a shove. Buddy, this was nothing like any animal sound from this area, and it got my full attention fast. The scream was about 40 feet uphill from behind me. The scream was only about 40 feet uphill from me, behind some privet hedge that was grown up and over a fig or persimmon tree that was fruiting out, but I could not see it at all. Then the damn thing started chattering at me in what nearly sounded like drunken gibberish. It done that crazy shit a few times, and I admit, it spooked me. I started easing sideways down the mountain to an old logging road to hike the mile or so to my pickup at camp, but wouldn't turn my back to it. I had an old Browning HP 9mm in my side with a full mag, and one in the pipe. I even had another full mag in my belt holster rig. And for some reason I didn't draw my pistol out yet, even when I got to the roadbed. When I headed for camp, this thing kept pace with me. Like if I took 5 fast steps and stopped quick, it did the same thing I did. At about a half a mile from camp, there was an open logged out strip about 50 or so feet wide on that side of the mountain, like a fire break. The way I figured it out was it would have to come out in the open if it wanted to keep tracking me. When I got there, I stepped out in the opening a little pulled my pistol and cocked. Okay, obviously I'm missing some punctuation. I'm trying to make it smooth. I got there. I stepped out into the opening a little, pulled my pistol and cocked the hammer back. And as I stopped, it took 2 pretty loud steps and stopped also. Almost like it wanted to make sure I knew it was still there. When I walked on across the spot, I leveled my pistol and waited, but it never came out in the clear. After what seemed like forever, I heard it start real slow and quiet back up towards the same way we came in. Steve and I got to my old 4-wheel drive truck. I grabbed my 30-06 from behind the seat, laid it and my 9mm beside me in the seat, and I don't know how long I sat there, but it was dark by now, and I had to get out to lock my old-style hubs because the road out ran the backside of that mountain, and for all I knew, it had crossed over and was waiting for me to drive out on the old logging road. And I was not going to stop. Nothing else happened on my way out, and I didn't stop near there to unlock my hubs. But when I got home, my wife was in the kitchen. She gave me a funny look and asked me, was I all right? She said I had a stunned look on my face. How do you tell somebody about that kind of crazy crap? So I just told her a bobcat had stepped out on me while I was hiking out, and it shook me a little. She pretty much told me I was full of shit. I never hunted that lease land by myself again, and we were supposed to release the land after gun season that year, but I told my buddies I wasn't going in on the lease again. I never told them why, but believe me, I put a lot of work in that land, building food plots and shooting houses, so they were all surprised by this move. I had hunted, fished, hiked, and camped solo about my whole life, and outdoor activities took up most of my spare time. Now I don't hunt anymore, and no hiking and camping either. I still fish, but no longer hike and fishing. No longer hike-in fishing, just fish the rivers around here. I never saw this damn thing, so I can't swear to anything, but I know that what was there wasn't no damn monkey. 2 other things I can say was I was downwind of it and never smelled a nasty odor. And that crazy chattering, I heard it again a while back because for some reason I watched a video called something like the Sierra Sounds. When I heard that crazy chattering on that video, the hair on most of my body stood straight up like an electric shock. I have little doubt that if that thing had wanted me bad enough, 16 rounds of 9mm was not going to stop it. I wish this had never happened to me. And people think these things are some kind of monkey and go out looking for them, are in need of some kind of counseling. It pisses me off that it's taken me all these years to finally talk about this shit. I want to thank you for a place so folks can have honest talk about this without worrying about what idiots say to them. I've never really cared what folks think about me, but nobody should put up with that. Sorry, but nobody should put up with what some of these assholes say about it. Again, thanks, brother. Keep spreading the word about this. I hope my telling about what happened to me helps somebody with a similar experience. It did. And it does. Guaranteed. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming through, Mr. Tanner. You're a good, honest man and a fellow club member. Fellow club member. It does. I get it, man, about being pissed off about not being able to talk about this. It is bullshit. Then you think about what's going on today as this spiritual war carries on. People are scared. People are scared to call a woman a she or a her because they'll lose their job here in the modern world. Holy shit, people are so twisted up. Isn't it crazy? It'd be fun. Not fun, but odd if everybody... Imagine if we were all on the same coffee table with a sheet of paper and a pencil and had to write down all the various things that human beings are scared to say out loud right now. And then have to read that list out loud. Make you lose respect for so-called authority pretty quick, right? I don't have any. I got nothing. I have respect for my community. I got respect for the land. I got respect for my fellow human beings in my community and around the world, but I don't have any respect for anyone who calls themselves authority. You go F yourself. You're not authority over me. You never will be. right? Okay, I'll bite my lip. That can get me a little fired up, obviously. The so-called whoever self-proclaims himself today, 2025, to be a member of or a person of authority, you are the enemy of the people. Easily proven. Easily. The receipts are everywhere. All right, I'll shut up. Right? All right, I'm going to read one more here. What do we got? Bigfoot Experience. Title's email. Might be a little bit of an older one. Hello, Steve. I'm sending the story without much apprehension because it is the truth. I lived in a small town 50 miles south of Buffalo, New York, where there's a lot of hills and extremely woodsy. I remember one time driving through and out of Buffalo, New York, and the city's like right there in the rearview mirror, and there was frickin' deer everywhere. I'll never forget that. Every time I hear Buffalo, New York, I picture the deer. The road that my folks lived on is a seasonal road, and at the time, one of 3 houses. And at one point, going down the road, it kind of bottlenecks, and it winds sharp, and there's a real deep ravine on the west side for about a half a mile down the road. Anyways, right before that part of the road, there was an old farmhouse that had collapsed. But the old wooden machine shed, approximately 30 feet long and 15 feet wide, was still standing. Myself and a couple of guys that lived on that same road were out on a bike ride that day because 35 years ago, that's what we did before the internet. We got out of the house and did shit. I've forgotten to mention that I was 14 and the 2 brothers were 13 and 15. We started looking around the old building and decided to see what was inside. It was pretty dark inside, even though it was fall in the middle of the day. And being nosy kids, we just kept going. We all of a sudden, in the back of the building, we saw, and I do mean we, a large being with 2 red eyes start to stand up. How do I know its eyes were red? Probably because there was enough light that could have made his eyes shine to the back of the building. And I can tell you how tall the thing was. It was wide and tall. That much I can't tell you how tall the thing was. It was wide and tall. That much I can tell you. I was scared shitless. I ran out of the building with them 2 right behind me. I was running so fast that the chain of my bike jumped off the sprocket. We didn't speak of this for a few weeks. And when I did, and who was with me, I became a laughingstock. It wasn't until 30 years later that one of the brothers admitted to me what we saw that day happened. I really didn't give a shit because I did. And it wasn't until 2006 that I had another encounter. Not of the same magnitude, but an encounter. Thanks for giving me a forum to share my story. You can use my name if you want. Take care, and thanks for being a balls-to-the-wall kind of guy. Blake, appreciate you coming forward, man. And you know what? If you're still hanging out here, make sure you send this video to your siblings. All right? Make sure you send it to them. Now, what was that being doing in that abandoned human building? Was it there resting, taking shelter because it just got here? Didn't know where else to go. Didn't know where else to go yet? Right? Got to think about that shit. You're obviously not hunting in there. It's not a place to be hunting or looking for food. You just found some shelter. You just found some place that seemed like nobody goes. It's dark. You're covered on most all sides, above and beside you, except the entrance, and a good place to hang out and not be seen, maybe, right? Why would you do that? Did you just get here? Right? Did you just arrive? Not sure where you're going yet? Did you escape from somewhere? And you're having a little rest en route to wherever the hell your destination is? You know? Those are the thoughts that I get. I don't think about, man, I wonder what color it was. I wonder how big his feet were. I wonder if it had dermal ridges or even mid-tarsal breaks. I wonder. Never. I want to know what it's doing in there. What made it stop there? And obviously sitting down, not doing anything. That's not a place where you sit and wait for game, like a lot of people think they do. Oh, they're hunting game. They're making an ambush. They're putting trees down to make a funnel. No, they're not. Not a chance in hell they have to act that primitive to get some food. Something that can throw a rock with deadly accuracy over 100 yards. They don't need to try to ambush anything. Something that can run 60 or 45, whatever they do, beside a vehicle. They don't got to build any kind of an ambush funnel to eat. Not a frickin' chance. Anyway, I'm really rambling, aren't I? What else do we got? All right. Mark, this is red. What do we got here? Arkansas. Bigfoot encounter. You know, the funny thing, I hear buffalo. I picture deer. Every single time I hear Arkansas, I picture Bill Clinton and his dirty, filthy partners murdering those innocent kids that witnessed them with the cocaine. Every time I hear Arkansas, the first picture I get is the evil Clintons. Side note. Hey, Steve, I ask that you only use my first name, which is also Steve. I've got an encounter to share with you and your listeners. It's probably not as interesting as most encounters you read, but it was real and very intense for me, even if no one believes me. It happened in September of 2012 in central Arkansas. It was a month before archery deer season, whitetail, and I was out scouting and checking game cameras. Things started out normally. I made my way from camera to camera and looking for deer sign. The land I hunt is private and barely under 200 acres. Only myself and two of my grown sons hunt on this land, but more times than not, it's just me. I would say the biggest part of the land is loblolly pine, open timber in places and super thick underbrush in others. There are 4 pastures, and there's a section of huge open hardwoods, mostly giant white oaks that fruit some of the largest acorns I've ever seen. The hardwoods are where I started. There's cattle on the land, so tons of cow trails that I walk looking for deer tracks, as they walk these trails sometimes too. I made my way out of the hardwoods and walked one edge of the pasture till I hit the section of open pines. Most of these pines are good, straight, telephone pole quality trees. Great for climbing stands. Eventually, the underbrush starts getting thicker and thicker, and if you aren't on a cow/game trail, it can be quite difficult to make much headway. And as you go even further into the thickets, the bigger pines are more spread out, and there are tons of different sized saplings of a large variety of trees, mostly sweet gum or golden amber trees. I would say the average thickness of these sweet gums at head level would be the diameter of a Louisville Slugger. And as I started getting close to this area, I felt what many of you have sent in their encounters have said. I felt a sense of dread, like I was being hunted or stalked. My mind immediately thought black bear. Through the years, we've seen a few. Then I thought about coyotes. They would most likely be rabid to consider attacking an adult. Those thoughts came and went literally in a second or two. I immediately knew it was something else. I didn't want to give in and accept what I was thinking it could be. I was frozen in fear. I felt I should head to the truck and leave, but I still had a few more cameras to check. I know I stood there for no less than 5 minutes. I finally told myself to get a grip before I had a heart attack as my heart was beating out of my chest. It was then I started noticing several of these baseball bat diameter trees that were broken over. I would estimate the tree breaks around 10 feet up the trees. I also noticed that the tops that were broken over all pointed at me, and they made a half circle in front of me. Okay, so now I'm legitimately freaked out. I'm seriously waiting for the heart attack. The sense of dread is now completely overwhelming, and even though I grew up hunting these woods, I found myself completely disoriented. I soon realized that I was on a cow/game trail, and I also realized that either way I go on this trail, that I will come out in one of the pastures. And I had the clarity to know where I was. If I could just make it to any of the pastures, and would know what direction to go. As I contemplated whether to go forward or turn and go the other way, I heard something that jarred my whole system. Immediately after hearing this sound, I had clarity. The dread completely disappeared, and curiosity took over. What I heard was a child crying. Not a baby necessarily, but a toddler maybe. Any feeling of fear was gone. Now it's just curiosity and concern about this kid that must be lost in the woods. And I'm guessing the cries are maybe 50 yards ahead, and I take a few steps. The woods in front of me exploded with snapping limbs and timber shaking, and holy crap, something's coming my way. And suddenly there he was. The cause of dread and fear was standing right in front of me. And I say he because, trust me, there was no doubt. There was no doubt about his manhood. I have to say that for the most part, most descriptions fit perfectly with this dude. Had to be 4-foot shoulder span. Legs at least as big around as my torso. I'm 5'8", 220 pounds. Definitely a body rippling with noticeable muscles but no six-pack abs. In fact, I'd say he had a bit of a belly. Jet black, shiny hair all over except for what skin you would see on a bearded man's face. Oh, a bearded man's face. The hair seemed to be less dense on his feet and the top of his hands. His skin color reminded me of the color from a charcoal gray pencil. Not the skin color of a black man or any other race I've ever seen. Dark charcoal gray, as best as I can describe it. My house has 8-foot ceilings, and he was easily that tall, if not a little more than that. Okay, so this is my take on what I saw and what I didn't see. What I saw was a massive man. This was no ape. Not half ape, half man. There is absolutely no doubt. I'll even say this. He was actually a fairly good-looking man, and yeah, not a noticeable neck. And I never noticed any odor. And enough with his description, and back to the story. So he has just ran up and stopped right in front of me. 10 yards max. So I one another for maybe 5 seconds, and then he slowly turns and looks behind him, and holy crap, there's another one. I'm guessing 6'6", noticeably smaller than he was. This one was about 20 yards further behind him, and although I'm not positive, I'm guessing it was female. And I say this because although I never saw a juvenile with it, the crying I had heard hadn't completely stopped. And I'm pretty sure this was Mom walking away with a toddler. And as soon as she started to take off, the big boy looked back at me. He then raised his arm and pointed, not at me, but as if to say, I needed to leave. I know that's what he was telling me. And as I walked away, my surroundings started becoming familiar again. At this point, I wasn't scared as much as I was just uneasy. I made it to my truck and headed home, and I didn't sleep at all that night. And this is the first I've spoken about it. I know this sounds stupid, but I always felt if I said anything, he'd know. Crazy. And somehow I'd have to answer for saying something. Even as I tell this, the hair on my neck is standing up, and I really think he knows. At this stage of the game, I wouldn't be surprised if that was correct. I still hunt there, but not nearly as much as I used to. And I definitely avoid that section of woods. No doubt. I can relate. I've been within 100 yards or so, but I feel I shouldn't go any closer. Although I'm sure they aren't always in that one little section. I feel like it's off limits to me. I've never seen a Bigfoot track out there. I've found broken trees since then, but I haven't felt they were in the area at those times. Oh. The one I'm sure was a female was more of a dark, rich brown color than black. I couldn't make out too many details or features on that one except for the height and color differences. Again, I never could make out the one that was crying. And I completely believe they are another race of people. The whole sixth sense thing you talk about, I fully believe you're right. After experiencing those feelings even before I saw him, they can tap into something we can't and bring feelings of fear and dread and disorientation. It has to be their first line of defense. I can say that I wouldn't mind seeing one again, but from like 100 yards away. And if not, and it not be pissed off. I sure didn't get that warm and fuzzy vibe from him. Please use my first name only. Thanks, Steve. Okay, man. Gotcha. I may have read that a long time ago, but I don't give a shit. I'll read it again, and there's probably 100,000 people plus here that haven't heard that, so there you go. Welcome to the club. See, that's the thing that myself, and probably everybody else, doesn't want. You don't want to have to be ran up to and stood there 10 yards staring you down. I'm not into that. I had my close one, I'll say 15 yards, but didn't run up on me, and it was dark, just squatting there like he knew I was coming. Without a doubt, knew I was coming. Because, just without a doubt, for me, I was in full view of that person. I'll bet I was in full view. I would have been in full view when I come around the top. The road behind me curves down. It would curve around Horseshoe and then start down. And as soon as I get to the top of that Horseshoe and start going down, that dude was watching me. 100% watching me. Until I finally got to within about, 15 yards. I think 15 yards is furthest, yes. And that's when I looked up and saw that skylight. Because as I'm coming down, I wouldn't have seen him skylined. So I would have been a little bit above. And I would have been looking down. Because it was a full washed out old road, right? With bedrock on it. You know those ones where you really got a 4x4 to get up and out of that shit. Obviously, I would have been watching my step. I would have been watching my feet going down that. Where the bedrock come out in the gravel as well, so it wouldn't slip and smash my frickin' head open. But yeah, I'm just saying, I guess I've had my close, but I don't need a huge, menacing, hairy, non-human being running up on me and standing there and giving me the stink eye at 10 yards in the woods. No thanks. I'm good. Good for you for still going. And I get it about the, I've been within 100 yards but don't go in there. When I look over my lifetime, I can't count how many times I've been. I mean, man, you guys seen where I go. I don't have to prove shit. I've gone and slept on the ground everywhere around this frickin' in the middle of nowhere, like a baby. So why is it that certain places I get pressure from and I'm not going in there? That doesn't make sense. If you didn't know anything about these topics that everybody talks about, it does make sense. It does not make sense for me to throw in a backpack, go up into grizzly bear country, sleep on the ground like a baby, get up, go through that forest, go up over that hill, everywhere. Oops, but all of a sudden, I'm not going on that timber. No, I'm not going that timber. I got a lot of places like that. Why is that? You know what I mean? Why is that one? But anyway, I just got a text. I'm supposed to be going in for breakfast. I better get going for breakfast. The direction of gravity is I guess straight away from me, I would think. And the chance of all these trees falling and landing in the exact same one spot is kind of doesn't really fit with gravity, does it? And you can see where they're placed. Didn't even grow there. But anyways, whatever, it is what it is. A bunch of big trees stacked up. Normally I see these sort of things quite often. I'm not really overly concerned about it myself. But I thought since I was making a video right here, I would video tape that for those who are interested. So there you go. How'd that happen?